Yep, and welcome back to Talking Knicks. It's been a couple weeks. The Knicks season after the trade deadline continued to spiral, but since we last spoke, the Knicks are on a heater, 3-8 in their last 11 since we last talked. Today, I am joined by Greg Poon, Tommy Piccolo. We're going to talk about the games you missed. You probably missed them if you're trying to live a happy life. We'll talk about some of the highs, the lows, a little Fizdale, what we've seen on the court that we like, probably a lot more we didn't like. Let's talk Knicks. Bum, 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 bum. Just keep playing the intro song. That might be better than what we're about to talk about. No! Welcome back to Talking Knicks. I am Jake Storielli at Talking Jake on the Twitter sphere. How's everyone doing today? Knicks basketball. We missed a 2-game win streak. Let's get to the fellas though. I as mentioned, joined by Greg Poon. Greggy, how you doing, brother?
What's going on, Jake? I'm doing well. Went to a baptism today. You know those are always lit. So went there. Now I'm here.
Were you invited?
No, I just frequent baptisms.
That's coming out in 2022. Baptism crashers. That'll be good. I thought you were gonna say you dunked on someone on the court again.
No.
That's how you used to baptize people.
Oh.
Tommy P. How many baptisms you been to ever?
I can't recall a single one that I've been to.
Pitching a shutout.
Yeah, no, because I've always been so blackout drunk. No. No baptisms. Had some friends spend the night. Some friends of ours from high school, actually. Jim Widman and his wife, Suzanne, the couple that set up my wife and I, stayed the night. Friday, we ordered in some dinner. It was really a nice evening together. We all put the phones away. There was no technology. It was pretty old school evening. But since then, I've just been on Knicks Twitter, just having a miserable time. Really not enjoying myself at all. Today I actually missed the first half of today's game because I was doing yoga. I had to separate from it, and by the time I came back, it was just a tire fire. So, I'm excited to talk about it with you guys.
Yeah, I love. I'm glad you had a good swingers night, and the Knicks have been tough, man. Well, today was one of their. I mean, I'll send it right back to you quick on today's game, Tom. Was this the worst effort of the season, the Clippers game?
Well, I missed the first half, and I think that is where most of the damage was done. That third quarter, I think they outscored the Clippers by 19 points or something that third quarter, but they were still down by another 20. It was pretty much impossible to come back. But even what I saw, the energy was bad, and the body language was rough. Nothing was working. And I even noticed that they started the second half with 2 isolation post-ups for Noah Vonleh. And that's just a bad sign if that's how your offense is trying to kickstart itself. It's like the shot of adrenaline it needed. It was pretty rough. So I would say that this is one of the worst efforts. I know the Utah Jazz game right around Christmas time. Was it around Christmas? That was another just abysmal one. Rudy Gobert dunked every single possession. So that one sticks out for me, but this was another one that was pretty much unwatchable.
Yeah, so this was their second game losing by at least 30 at halftime of the season. Then they're losing by 36 this game. Lost the first quarter by 18. Lost the second quarter by 18. Pretty good, pretty consistent. So can you really complain about that?
You can. When Noah Vonleh led the team in scoring with 17, Mitch Robb with another solid game. I think he's probably going to be our highlighted player we talk about this podcast to get all our good thoughts out there. Greggy, I'm going to kick it back to you. It's been a couple weeks. When we last talked, we were in the midst of our losing streak. I think, what did we get up to? 18?
Yeah, I think so. I think that's right. I think so. There's at least 18 at home. It might have been more than that overall.
Yeah.
It felt like more than that for sure.
It definitely did. We pull out big W at Atlanta, Valentine's Day, the last game before the All-Star break. Not to toot my own horn, I saw this coming. Atlanta had just beaten the Lakers. Everyone was excited about that. That's when people still thought the Lakers were going to turn it on. Well, talking Lakers must be in a tough spot right now, huh? Would that be the only worse case than the Knicks right now?
Celtics are having a rough time.
Yeah, but they're still comfortably in the playoffs. They're locked into the 5th at least.
Yeah, the Celts are. The talking Lakers has to have some tough episodes.
Yeah, they just lost to the Suns, who are worse than us.
But at least there's some like intrigue and drama there. I mean, if you were talking Suns, that would just be always the worst.
Oh, they just got a big win. Anyways, enough talking Suns. Greggy, the past 2 weeks or so, we get the win at Atlanta. We had a 2-game winning streak. San Antonio,
huge.
We somehow managed them well. We get Orlando's been their on or their off team all year, and then we come out, we win the Cleveland game, and then go expert level tank mode, and then the worst effort ever today after a Saturday night in Los Angeles. Greg, what over these past 2 weeks, what's jumping out to you? What's not jumping out to you?
I mean, you touched on it. Mitchell Robinson has been the big thing. I mean, I'm sure we'll get to him more, so I'll spread the wealth. Moutié's come back. He's looked pretty good. You know, he looked just like he looked before he got injured, and now he's in the bench role. So he's been good, but you know, who knows if we're going to keep him around or not. Trier has been good, so that's good. He was pretty bad for like a long time. Like when he was on his 2-way contract, he was really good, and we're like, all right, let's lock this guy up for a couple of years. He signed, ink dried. Then he was just bad for like a while. He was just launching shots. Then back in that Rockets game when he was going back and forth with Harden, ever since then he's picked it up again. I know he put up 18 against the Magic, 4 for 5 from the field, 9 for 10 free throws. He was one of the big guys leading us to that victory. So it was good to see from him.
He's been doing that a lot lately, where he's been putting up these scoring numbers with very few field goal attempts because of how many free throws he's been getting. So over the last 5 games, so pretty small sample, but last 5 games, he's averaging 17 points, shooting better than 56% from the field. He is hitting 50% from 3 and about 3 attempts, and he's getting to the line more than 5 times a game, hitting almost 90% of those. So he's being just extremely efficient. He's getting to the rim a ton, getting to the free throw line. He's hitting his threes. He's doing everything you want him to do. And like you said, he's bounced back after that mid-season swoon he had. So that's been really encouraging in addition to all the Mitchell Robinson stuff.
Yeah, Trier looks like he's back. I don't know if he, got his legs back or rookie slump, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I think I kind of want to jump to Mitchell Robinson a little bit while we're there, because I guess we're getting some of the highlights out of the way. Although I do want to talk about Damian Dotson. Dame Dot, during the stretch where they won 3 out of 4 games, Dame Dot was averaging 19 and 4, shooting 44% from 3. I guess I'm not going to Mitchell Robinson. Let's talk Dame Dot. A shout out to Kenny, who's not with us tonight. Kenny's guy. Where do we stand on Dame Dot? There's times when he looks like kind of the quintessential, is that a word I use? Professional. He hits his shots. He shoots well from the free throw line. He plays defense. He shoots threes well. 8 for 13 in that San Antonio game from distance. Where are we at with Dame Dot? Like, is this a guy we think is part of the Knicks' future when we start mentioning Knox, Mitchell Robinson, whoever it is?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, I think he'd be, like, for a championship team, he'd be closer to like an 8th man, a 7th or 8th man. But he's a pretty reliable 2-way guy. He does, on defense, he gets lost off the ball a good amount. I don't know if that's just disinterest because a lot of the Knicks games are not interesting. But like, he's got some on the ball defensive skill. He's strong. He's been working on passing the ball lately, it seems like. earlier in the season, he was really one of the worst statistical passing guards in the league. So I have a stat here. It's kind of interesting. So through February 1st, from the beginning of the season through February 1st, there were 69 guards who had usage rates of 15% or higher, and Dotson was tied for dead last in assist percentage with Jaylen Brown. So they were the two worst guards at creating for their teammates. But since he's been I think he had a 6-assist game the other night. He's been definitely distributing the ball more lately. I've been picking up some videos of him coming out of the pick and roll, hitting the roll man. He threw some alley-oops to Mitchell Robinson. And it's just been a good thing to see, because you want to have your guards be able to everyone needs to be able to pass, dribble, and shoot. That's like the main skills, the basic level skills that you need for an NBA guard. And unless you're like Klay Thompson, who doesn't pass much at all, you need your guy to be able to create for others, and that's what Dotson's doing now.
Yeah, I think you're right. I think he's just a solid role player. He'll be like our Alfonso McKinney next year when we're the Warriors.
Wow.
When we're the Warriors.
Good. I love a good early Alfonso McKinney shout out and talking Knicks. Man, and I don't know if Ken's going to be happy that I'm saying this, or if he's going to be punching his steering wheel that he's not here for this. But man, are the Danny Green comparisons kind of fair? I mean, I just went through some of Danny Green's stats. They're not as impressive as what he actually brings to the court. And I know I'm already picturing Tom saying Dame Dot's not the defender Danny Green is. And maybe he can get there, maybe he can't. But I mean, both second round picks, Dame Dot was 214, Danny Green was 216. And Danny Green's numbers in his early years are actually, I mean, fairly similar. It actually took him a little bit of time to get going, but a 24-year-old Danny Green was averaging 9 points per game, 3.5 rebounds. He was shooting 44% from three, but only taking 3.5 chances per game. And it was the Spurs. I mean, that I feel like you have to mention that Spurs caveat. But man, Dame Dot almost averaging 10 points, 3.5 rebounds, and he's shooting 38% on 4 attempts from threes. Not in the Spurs system. He's on the Knicks still. Reminder. Is that fair, Tom? Are we too far off the path?
Well, it sounds like you don't even need me here. You're just making up my arguments for me. But no, he's definitely not the defender Danny Green is. But he's also a much better rebounder than Danny Green is. So that's one thing. The other is, you mentioned it, just the 3-point accuracy. I feel like Danny Green, he, like you said earlier in his career, he was almost out of the league, I think, when he was in Cleveland, and his stint with the Spurs really revitalized his career. But overall, I think he was in his prime a much more accurate 3-point shooter than Dotson has been. So Dotson's shooting 38% on 4 attempts per game. It's very good, but it's like you got to get to that 40% threshold, I think, before you start having that conversation.
And
it's not out of reach.
We'll get there next year when we have Durant and Kyrie. Open up some space.
Should we just go there? Should we go lotto balls in free agency? No, we'll land there. Let's talk about the big man, and it's kind of been a beautiful story. I mean, Mitchell Robinson, 2nd round pick, young guy who, you know, we like to have some fun sorting some stats on the Basketball Reference. When you filter in some of the things he's doing with block shots, you can put him in some elite big man company. And I mean, it's got the storyline. DeAndre Jordan comes over, which is a player we've compared him to before that. Hammer, what do you got on the big fella?
I mean, he's been incredible. He's been really the main bright spot for watching this team. The reason that you even tune in every game. Just we'll start offensively. The lob threat is constantly there. I don't have the numbers in front of me, just how many dunks he's thrown down in the last couple of weeks, but you can't even keep up with all of his highlight plays if you're trying to get them up onto Twitter and you know get that engagement. You can't possibly do it as fast as Mitchell Robinson is throwing down dunks. Everyone's throwing him alley-oops, even guys who don't normally make passes. I was tweeting this earlier, like Kevin Knox is one of the worst passing guys on the team. He's even looking to throw lobs to Mitchell Robinson here. So the downside is it kind of empowers guys to throw some really risky or just horrendous passes. We saw a couple of those tonight against the Clippers, but you'll take that downside with all the upside of just having a guy who can finish so well around the rim, who can clean up. Like, he gets so many offensive rebounds. You think that the Knicks would miss Enes Kanter on the offensive glass only, but not even that. Like, Mitchell Robinson is taking care of that. So that's just him on offense. We kind of knew that he had this defensive shot blocking capability, but I did not expect to see him producing on the offensive end this early in his career.
His last 18 games. So, I mean, not the smallest of sample sizes. Last 18 games, he's been averaging 21 minutes, shooting 75% from the field on 5.3 attempts, 7 boards, 9.5 points, 3 blocks. I mean, Greggy, I know we half grin because I'd say we're up to twice a week now where the text message gets exchanged between us that says, "Yo, what if Durant signs with the Knicks though?" Because it's just a world we haven't lived in. Where does Mitchell Robinson fit into all this? I mean, is the hopes for him to be kind of like where we've seen the big man go a little bit, where it's kind of 25 minutes, put in your time, rebound, block shots, but a lot of matchups you're not going to be there? Or, I mean, I'm not going to jump to Rudy Gobert comparisons, but I mean, when we're starting to look at the Knicks going forward, is it something we can say that Mitchell Robinson is going to be a starting 30 minutes big man for us?
Yeah, I mean, I think if that's what the center position is going to be going forward, then yes. But like you said, sometimes centers can only play 25 minutes with the way it's going. But he's shown a decent ability to guard the perimeter. I mean, obviously he hasn't been attacked as much as I'm sure he will be as when we get Durant. But he does well for himself. And plus, like you mentioned, the Gobert comparisons, his defense is just game changing. He's third in the NBA in blocks per game, and he only plays 18.6 minutes per game. The two people ahead of him are Anthony Davis and Miles Turner. Davis plays 34.7. Turner plays 28.2. So blocks.
And Davis won't be playing 34 minutes per game for very long. Like, that's going to drop precipitously. He's playing like 15 minutes a game now.
Yeah.
Right. So, one more.
Okay.
Blocks per 48 minutes. Miles Turner, 4.74. Anthony Davis, 3.42. Mitchell Robinson, 5.9.
Wow.
Just, if he gets the minutes, he's leading the NBA in blocks. And he's not far off this year, even though he doesn't have the minutes.
Yeah, the other thing I'd point out is he does, as far as like the Rudy Gobert comparison, he definitely jumps at a lot more pump fakes than someone like Gobert does, who remains on his feet and vertical. But so like that gets him into some foul trouble still, even though he has improved there. The other thing is, I would say like Gobert struggled in last year's playoffs defending out in space. Like, there were times when they just had to take him out, like the defensive player of the year, because he couldn't defend on the perimeter. Mitchell Robinson has more lateral quickness than Rudy Gobert and has shown that he can defend guards, I think better than Gobert can. So there's some major upside there. It's just a matter of discipline and getting reps and being able to protect the rim at a Gobert-like level, which really is another level right now.
And think about how far we've come. This guy was a second-round pick that nobody saw him play basketball last year. We didn't know this guy could have ended up in the G League playing minutes very well. And now it's March 4th, and we're comparing him to Rudy Gobert potentially. So I mean, just the fact we're talking about, and now I'm seeing on Basketball Reference they have his nickname listed as the Block Ness Monster. So I mean, I think I just have to get that jersey right now. But yeah, and Tom, this one's kind of an awkward one, and I think we'll move on from Mitchell. But you've talked about the lob threat, and the gifs are cracking me up because some of these passes, I said before when we were talking, like I am a ridiculous point guard when I'm on a basketball court, high turnover to assist ratio. looking to make that one pass so that after the game I can be like, hey, you guys see that one pass though? And that's kind of what the Knicks are doing with Mitchell Robinson. What can you tell us about just having him as that lob threat? I mean, what can that do for an offense?
Yeah, I think the conventional wisdom there is that just having a guy who, when he rolls to the basket off a pick and roll, just creates so much, deserves so much attention from the defense, right? So when he gets to the rim, guys on the weak side need to get down to the paint to make sure that he's not throwing down dunks over everyone. Like, it's just, he's such a focal point of the defense now. Like, they need to game plan for him and him rolling. So it just creates so much more space on the perimeter when defenders on the help side need to go down there and tag him. And when you're able to surround him with shooters, like we've seen Henry Ellenson actually have a lot of success with Mitchell Robinson on the court because Robinson's creating so much space.
Yeah, and he's really starting to score. He's averaging 6.6 points on the year, but in 9 of the last 11 games, he's been in double digits. So he's getting the burn and he's delivering.
And I mentioned the ridiculous passes, and again, I think we said this previously, but imagine if this guy had a Mike Conley, a Chris Paul passing to him. I mean, what would we be truly saying about his rookie season? So, a definite bright spot. And it's funny, I'm clicking on links through Basketball Reference, and man, depending these next two guys we're going to talk about, the Knicks' recent draft history could be pretty impressive. Kristaps, I mean, Ogden Yaramaz. We haven't seen too much of him yet.
He was like the 58th pick, though.
Yeah, he was second round 58. But Dame Dot, that in 2017 was round 244. Frank was pick 8. We're going to talk about him a little bit. Mitchell Robinson, 236. And then Kevin Knox, the guy I kind of want to lump with Frank a little bit, just to kind of get your guys' thoughts on them. I mean, Frankie Smokes, I think he had a groin injury recently. He was out of today's game. Have we seen, Tom, you mentioned Knox floater today, and I think I'm bundling these guys together because I don't think I'm gonna love where we land on it. But Knox and Frank, the past 2 weeks, I mean, these are two of the guys we have eyes on. Knox, I mean, you see some of these moments and you're like, yes, sir. And then, Tom, you see his floater today and go.
Well, so the thing with Frank is his groin injury was not that recent. Like, he hasn't played a game since January 27th when he played under 15 minutes. I don't know if he –
That's crazy.
I don't know when he hurt it. Was it in warm-ups or something, or was it in that game against Miami? I don't remember it.
He heard it at the beginning of that game, I'm pretty sure.
The beginning of that Miami game. So
he played like a couple minutes and then he left.
But the wild thing is that like there hasn't been much of an update as far as his health. Like, right? I don't even know if he's making this West Coast road trip. Have you guys heard anything about that?
I have not.
I'm not sure.
There was some talk of him not even going with the team. So like this groin injury has really lingered for him, which is problematic because I know a huge focus of this season for us as a pod was invested in Frank's development, and we have not gotten that at all. So going back to your question about Knox, he had that really hot December where he was rookie of the month and there was just so much goodwill around him. And since then, he has been atrocious. Like his shooting numbers as far as his field goal percent, it doesn't matter how you look at it, effective field goal percentage, true shooting, like it's all bottom of the league. Like he can't finish at the rim. He's not hitting his threes. His floater has stopped falling, and he just relies on that mid-range floater so heavily. It is not a great sign for like considering his size and his like smoothness, his athleticism. He should be able to get closer to the basket and maneuver, towards the rim on his shots more. But he's settling for these awkward floaters. They've stopped falling for him completely. He also isn't getting out on fast breaks anymore. I was looking into this. In that December, he was averaging about 2.5 points per game on fast breaks. And in the last 8 games, he hasn't made a single shot in a fast break situation. So he was averaging more fast break points per game in a single game in December than he scored in his last 8 games combined. He just isn't running anymore. I don't know if he's tired or he's probably a candidate for that rookie wall you're talking about.
Yeah, and I'm sorry with how I phrased that. I did see Mark Berman today said that Frank is close. So they're quote unquote ramping it up the next few days. We'll see. I believe he is on the West Coast trip. So we'll see if we potentially see him against Sacto or Phoenix. And man, it's just tough with. I mean, I'm looking at Frank's current stat line, and I almost don't want to say the numbers, and a lot of them are down. So I just don't know when he does come back. And you're right, Tom. It was a bizarre injury. Like I feel like they said he was eyeing to play that next game, and then they were just like, he's out with a groin injury. And now, I mean, yeah, he's missed a chunk of the season. He's got 41 games played, 16 starts. I don't know. Greg, any Frankie Smokes thoughts or something you want to see on him? And then anything you've seen jump out to you about Noxie?
Just get well soon, Frank. I want to see what you got. I want to see this guy next to Dennis Smith Jr. I want to see that backcourt, which is see if we actually have something there. If the offense-defense combo works out and they cancel each other out on their lesser ends of the floor. And with Knox, I mean, I'm right there with Tom. This guy's shooting floaters from everywhere. He'll shoot a floater from the free throw line, and you'll be like, what are you doing? Don't do that. Just shoot a jump shot. But to go along with how bad that is, he's shooting 36% from the field and 33% from three-point line. 33% from three-point line isn't terrible. It's like regular bad, but it's not terrible. 36% from the field is if you're doing worse than that, you're not allowed down the basketball court.
And what's he shooting from the free throw line?
He's shooting 72.5% from the free throw line, which is good enough.
Okay. That's up, I think.
Yeah, obviously you'd like that better, but we'll take it. He had one good game recently against the Spurs, so he had 19 on 8 for 18 shooting, which isn't perfect. That's 44.4%, 4444 repeating. Imagine if I just sat here and I just kept going.
Just heard a bunch of numbers.
Yeah,
4 4 4.
That was good. He had 18 against Minnesota in a loss. 5 for 14 shooting, so
that's pretty bad.
Yeah.
More
recently, 3 for 16 against the Magic and 3 for 12 against the Cavs,
and 1 of 6 tonight.
Yikes!
And 1 of
the Clippers. So,
tonight.
And Tom, last time we talked on Talking Knicks, I remember something that I loved that you said that was kind of my walk away because we were trying to deal with coping Knicks fans, and it was say look for some developments. And you just made a great point with Damian Dotson to start the show. We've seen Damian Dotson doing some improved things passing wise. He had those poor guard passing statistics. You mentioned him and Jaylen Brown. Yeah, Knox, and it's tough to say. This guy's 19. Is it a rookie wall? Is he going to bounce back? Is it, what are the Knicks telling him? Like, hey, if you have 3 for 16s, we don't care. Like, let it rip, young fella. Find some stuff out. You'd like to assume that, but we'd like to assume they did that with Frank last year. Is it too late in the year to hope to see efficiency from Knox? I mean, do we want to see him hit the boards more? Do we want to see him pass a little bit? What would be the biggest development for you with Knox? Stop taking floaters?
Well, the thing with Knox is, like, he's a scorer, right? Like, he's kind of a volume shooter, at least. So if he's not scoring, there's not a whole lot else that he brings to the table, which is different than Frank. Like, Frank was never going to be a scorer because he doesn't really have that mentality. So he would bring defense and some passing, and that's kind of it. But Knox, it's like, if you're not scoring, what else are you doing for me? And so, I don't think in this rookie year we're going to see him develop as a passer to like a decent level or even like a league average level for his position. Rebounding would be huge. I know he's had some double-digit rebounding games in the last like 5 games or so. But again, it would just be making shots and not like, yes, it's nice when he makes open shots that are created for him, but also creating his own shots, because that's going to be a huge part of his value is being one of the fulcrums of the offense, like having the offense flow through him where he's the one creating. And so that's what I want to see. I want to see him in the half court creating shots, efficient shots for himself, just in stretches, just in bursts, doing that. And that's going to be the biggest thing for me.
And Greggy, is there anyone, any player stuff that I think needs to be talked about? We hit a little bit. We signed Henry Ellenson. I was going to say, who else do we need to hit player wise?
You got to talk about Dennis Smith Jr. a little bit. I mean, he's had a couple good games. His Spurs game was one of the best games of the season by Nick. He had 19 points, 13 rebounds, 6 assists, 0 turnovers.
Like
13 assists, 0 turnovers. If he does that every game, he's one of the best point guards in the league.
That would be nice with that 19 point 13 to 0 turnover to assist to turnover ratio. Excuse me.
You know, and we're testing to see if this guy is a point guard of the future for us. You know, so he comes and goes though. I mean, in that Spurs game, he was the featured player. In that Magic game, the very next game, which we also won, he wasn't playing in the fourth quarter, so he only had 9 points in 21 minutes. But, I mean, Fizz is giving him some burn. He had 29 minutes and 28 minutes in the last 2 games, so we're seeing what we got. I mean, he's solid overall, but, you know, he's very inconsistent.
Yeah.
Better than Frank, at least in terms of the stats.
Well,
and the basketball ability, I guess.
He's been weird, though, because, like, all the advanced numbers on him look really bad since he's joined the Knicks, like, as far as just the on-off stuff. Like, he's got the 3rd worst on-off since he joined. So he's played 12 games for the Knicks. His plus-minus, he's minus 7.5 per game. So that's just behind Knox, who's by far the worst, and then DeAndre Jordan. So, and the offense has just really struggled when Dennis Smith has been on the floor. I mean, it could just be a small sample size thing, but yeah, for whatever reason, it's just something to watch out for. Like the offense has just completely stalled with DSJ on the floor. I don't know why that is. Like he seems to attack the rim a ton. He gets to the line a decent amount, but he's really not hitting his free throws. That's kind of strange. I don't know if that's going to be like a recurring thing or if that's just a blip. But yeah, I'm really intrigued by Dennis Smith Jr. I have no idea what to expect from him on a night-to-night basis, even as far as his like effort or anything like that. I don't know.
Yeah, and you wonder if he's going to be part of the future, if he's just going to be trade bait this summer once we get Kyrie. You know,
that is it. It truly is. You wonder how much of this is an audition for him to stay on the Knicks, and how much of it is an audition to maybe be a piece that has to be moved. And then we're talking about a young guy that would be on his 3rd team before age 22. He does a lot of nice stuff. He's averaging 15.5, 6.5 assists. He has been getting to the free throw line more, but he is shooting them at a 10% lower clip than his career average, which is odd. He was 70% with Dallas this year, and he's shooting them at 56%, which is, big man stuff. The 3-point shot hasn't really been there yet. So I think we can say some sample size stuff. But it's interesting. This sounds totally hot takey, but I feel like you see Dennis Smith Jr. and you like it. I mean, it's athletic. I mean, he has these moments of brilliance, but I don't know. Am I getting Eric Bledsoe vibes? Like it just doesn't seem, when you're a player that plays like this and you rely on your athleticism. I mean, is there a chance this guy can have Russell Westbrook type ability? I don't know. It doesn't feel like that's really in reach for him. And then I don't know, the guard, like I compared him to Eric Bledsoe. We haven't seen a player like that have a ton of big time success. Eric Bledsoe is really solid and probably going to get paid this offseason. But I don't know. Am I overthinking it?
Eric Bledsoe just got paid. He just signed a 4-year, $70 million extension.
Did he?
Did.
Nice. Congrats, Eric.
And there are a lot of people thinking that Bledsoe should have made the All-Star team this year. Like, he's on the best team in the league record-wise.
Right.
And he also, just his game is different in that, like, he's one of the best guard defenders in the league. Dennis Smith Jr., I don't think has a chance of ever getting there. He just doesn't seem to have that mentality. I put like a clip show together of him just getting lost off ball and having no idea what he was doing. Bledsoe is just so strong and so long.
So long.
So I don't know about that comparison as much. Maybe offensively, though, you could just see it with the attacking nature of their games. But yeah, like Russell Westbrook is a best case scenario. I'm trying to think of other. It might be more of like a Reggie Jackson situation.
Right, and then if you land on Reggie Jackson, where this team wants to go, I don't know. I don't want to turn into a Dennis Smith hate fest when he's been a lot better than a lot of the point guard play we have seen. But Tom, that the offensive efficiency numbers when he's on the court, I think there's a definite asterisk there of that's something to watch for. Hopefully it's sample size, but maybe it's not. Maybe it's not conducive to the flow of the offense. One other guy I want to talk about, not Henry Ellenson. Congrats on getting the contract, big dog. We mentioned Fizdale before the show, and I have one half hot takey thing for you. But Tom, I think you, or I forget if it was you or Greg, but one of you brought up Fizdale. What is it? Just open cans? If there's some new thoughts on it, or are there other things we need to be worried about, or what?
Yeah, I mean, I was asking you before the show, like what you guys thought, because I'm kind of at a loss at this point. I'm torn between, like, does this guy, is he capable of putting together like solid offensive schemes and getting his players in the best positions to be successful? Like, how much of this train wreck of a season is on him when we know that the talent is bad? Like, we see the players on the floor, but it's just hard to parse out what's the result of this roster and what's the result of maybe any shortcomings he has as a coach. So yeah, I wanted to get your guys' thoughts on that.
Yeah, I mean, it's a tough roster to work with. Like we said, I mean, they've been featuring Kevin Knox a lot since the Porzingis trade or the Hardaway trade, and he's been not delivering for the most part. So when your feature player is just not performing, it's tough to judge you on that.
But for sure, and like, could it be a situation where he needs better looks, where maybe if the offense flowed a certain way, or if certain sets were run for Knox, maybe he would be getting better looks and shooting better. I don't know that that's true. I think that Knox, at this point in his career, he's 19 years old, and he's a high volume, extremely low efficiency offensive player, and that's kind of who he is. I don't really blame his struggles on Fizdale, but just in general, Jake, I know you have a take, so I want to hear it.
Well, and I don't know if this has circled the internet. I only spend my life on my phone on Twitter all day, so you'd like to think I'd see this, but I've got something for you boys. What if a head coach were to become available, a certain young head coach that was really well liked in this league and came from the system everybody loves nowadays, that might be losing his job in Los Angeles, reportedly by everyone on Twitter recently? Would someone like Luke Walton move the needle for you over Fizdale? Luke Walton was really well liked when he had the young baby Lakers playing defense, which almost never happens in the NBA. And then the LeBron show comes to town. It's been ugly. But, I mean, a year ago, Luke Walton was viewed as one of the best young head coaches in the league. Now things fall apart. If he were to get fired, I mean, does that appeal to you guys at all?
I don't think so. I mean, if he's going to miss the playoffs with LeBron on his team, I don't know that I want him to be my coach.
Well, and I know our founder and editor-in-chief of the Basketball Index, the B-Ball Index. His name is Tim, but he goes by Cranjis McBasketball.
Sure, family name.
Yeah, it's a family name. He's a big Lakers fan, and he wrote the definitive piece on Luke Walton as a coach.
Okay.
And he's just extremely critical of Walton's offensive schemes. He says that defensively Walton gets the most, or among them, towards the top of the league as far as getting the most out of his team's defense.
Right.
But utilizing his team's offensive skills, he's among the worst in the league. Per Crangus McBasketball's his rating system. So I'm not a coaching schematic expert or anything like that. I just know what I see. If it looks pretty, I'll usually give some credit to the coach, and most of it to the players. But I don't know. I haven't watched a ton of Lakers basketball, but from what I have seen, it's been really ugly. And I think I would take Fizdale over Walton at this point.
Okay, yeah, and I mean, there's just some interesting elements in my head. I mean, we can even, what does Kevin Durant think of Luke Walton? I mean, does something like that become a factor? And if Luke Walton is a well-regarded defensive coach, if you gave him a player like Mitchell Robinson, I mean, I don't know. It was just something spinning in my head, and I'm glad you guys shot it down and made me sound like a buffoon, Greg.
And Luke Walton was gone before Durant got there, I think.
I think that's right.
Yeah. They were well, then there's no connection there, so that's out. All right, Fizdale, you're staying. I don't know. I guess
one more thing I wanted to say about Fizdale is that before his featured player was Kevin Knox, it was Tim Hardaway Jr. So not a lot to work with there either, Tom. He's like a worse version of Knox.
It's tough. Would there? I guess. Okay, so Luke, the coach that's on the hot seat to get fired, you guys don't want him. That's fine. Would there be anyone that could, that you'd be saying oh shoot, do we just call it a lost year for Fizdale? Take some heat for making him roll out with that team and bring in X? Is there any names that come to you guys? Hornacek?
Phil Jackson.
What's Derek Fisher up to?
I guess that's true. Maybe we just need to respect having a guy that's well liked in the league and a normal dude. Man,
I wasn't done. Kurt Rambis.
Where's Woody at these days?
Woodson's he's a consistent coach somewhere. I think he might be on the Clippers.
Pick him up. No, it is so tough. How can you actually measure the job that David Fizdale is doing with this roster? I don't know. Boys.
He's not an assistant for the Clippers anymore, by the way. He was last year. Now he's available.
Okay. Well, hey, hot take. Boys, we got at Sacto coming up tomorrow, back to back after their performance tonight, with Sacramento fighting for the playoffs and one of the more fun teams to watch in the league currently. And then at Phoenix Wednesday, and then home versus Sacto before another little road trip. I mean, we've got a fun tankathon game with the Suns there. I mean, is there any? Tom, you said it beautifully last time. Watch for these players to develop something out of the norm. Damian Dotson passing. Is there anything? I mean, obviously, if Frank comes back, the spotlight is going to be on him for the rest of the season because there's not a ton of season left. We're some quick math. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. I don't know. We've got what? 15 to 20 games left. I couldn't count that high. But I mean, with where we're at with Frank this year, I mean, these could be huge games for his future. We talked about Dennis Smith Jr. being trade bait. Is there anything else that we need to be watching out for besides hopefully not seeing the effort that they brought against the Clippers?
I think it's 19 games left.
Okay.
Which is between 15 and 20, if I'm not mistaken.
Nailed it. I will say stuff I'm looking for. It's development of our already good players like Mitchell Robinson. He really needs to improve as a defensive rebounder. Like, his rebounding numbers have been good, but they've actually mostly, a lot of them have been on the offensive side. and he does do a lot of jumping for blocks, and he has struggled to grab defensive rebounds because he's kind of gotten himself out of the play at times. So that's one thing I'm really looking for, is him just boxing out and grabbing rebounds to end defensive possessions. And then, anything that Frank can do. We just need to see some sparks, because he is really hated among a certain sect of Knicks fans. Like, I'll post some articles to Facebook. It's mostly on Facebook, I notice it. And people will just completely crap on Frank, more so than on Twitter, more so than on Reddit. It's just a certain group of fans who think he doesn't belong in the NBA at all. So he's only 20 years old. Knicks fans can be a little impatient, but I do need to see some evidence of some NBA level skill that he has. That's gonna be it.
The unfortunate part about it is some of the stats out there on Frank, those people have ammo right now, so we need to get rid of that. Greggy Poon, what are you watching, my man?
I mean, I'm just watching to make sure that Lance Thomas doesn't play anymore.
No, the captain.
That's what I need to see.
You're also watching Band of Brothers, I think, right?
That's Kenny. I'm not watching anything. I'm watching Cheers. I'm trying to free myself of it. There's so many episodes, but I'm like halfway through, but I'm like also like 3 months into it. It's terrible. It's a curse.
Wow.
I'm drowning in Cheers myself. It's really tough to get. I mean, and I fell behind too. I like stopped watching for a little bit, and it's been tough to pick back up. But
it's a chore. I might set up like 3 screens and just play 3 episodes at once.
It also kind of romanticizes alcoholism, and with this Knicks season, it's been a little tempting to hit the bottle.
So to answer your question, Jake, I want to see more episodes of Cheers and less Lance Thomas.
That's you know what? An odd amount of these episodes have had us spin back to having to drink to watch Knicks games, and that's not really our style. We don't want that to be our style. I don't know. 19 games left. It seems like we're for sure locked in essentially one of the 4 worst records.
3. We're 5 games separates us from the Hawks, and we're not going to win 5 games. It's either or the Bulls. It's either the Hawks or the Bulls that are 5 games in. It doesn't matter. We're gonna be one of the worst 3. We're gonna have tied for the best odds for the top 4 picks. The tank has been accomplished.
The tank has been accomplished. Boys, enjoy Cheers. Seriously, maybe put it on in front of the Knicks game instead of watching it. No, I'm actually really interested to see if they have some fight against Sacramento. A team in the West fighting for a playoff spot after you just threw up a total dud on a back-to-back night. You'd like to assume it would be ugly. I would love to see some fight out of them. Let's be honest. I think we're all ready to see those ping pong balls.
Yeah, and De'Aaron Fox is kind of exactly what you wish Dennis Smith Jr. was. So,
that's good.
Yeah, maybe Dennis Smith Jr. will show up for this one a little more so, because everyone's really been praising De'Aaron Fox, and a lot of it has been his intangibles, his leadership and things like that. So I don't know that Smith has that in him, but we'll see if that ends up being a rivalry at all.
Tom, I love that. De'Aaron Fox, 6'3". He's noted as one of the fastest players in the league, and he is getting a ton of love for what he's helping to do with this Sacramento team. That's I love that. I would love to see if Dennis Smith responds to that or does not.
He's got to get up for this one. I mean, of all the matchups, like it used to be Frank, he would have to do that for because of their draft positions, but Fox is the next one.
Yeah, De'Aaron Fox, 17 points, 7.3 assists. The numbers aren't too far off from Dennis Smith Jr., but when you're leading the Sacramento Kings back to the glory land a little bit. We talked Kings, we talked Suns, we talked Lakers, we talked Cheers. Most importantly, we talked Knicks. If you guys have been listening, thank you. Follow Tom on the Twitter sphere. He's all in the gifts games. Jokes, Tom? Would you say you bring jokes to the table?
Yeah, starting to get more into jokes. Really, really calculated, funny jokes. That's what I'm all about. So,
well,
no, that wasn't a great plug. But yeah, you can follow me on Twitter at Tom_Piccolo. That's where I'm at. You can read my stuff at the B-Ball Index, and I'm starting to have more stuff come out at Knicks Film School as well. And Jake, maybe you want to tease what we're up to next week?
Yeah, I think we're hopping on there this week, right? You, me, and Macri throwing bows.
You, me, and Macri on Thursday. We're recording a podcast for Knicks Film School. I'll also be on Locked On Knicks earlier in the week. So we're making the rounds, guys. It's all happening.
Tommy podcast. Greg, I mean, any final shots? Say something mean about Tom.
No, Tom's doing great work. He'll be good when he's on some other podcasts when we get Durant. We're trading Tom for Durant.
Okay, I'll take that. Enjoy him, Golden State. No. All right, boys. Thank you too. As always, thank you for listening. If you could, and you're listening, leave a review. Say, get us Kevin Durant. Say, don't hire Luke Walton. Say anything. Leave the 5 stars. And most importantly, as always, let's go Knicks.